Hello, welcome to another episode of Eulogise Me. It's the podcast where I invite my guests to write their own eulogy. They come onto the pod, they read it, and then we have a discussion and see where it takes us. This week on the podcast, I have comedian Philip Kostelecky. He corrected me on the pronunciation of his second name. I thought it was Kostelecky, but no, it's Kostelecky. Just so you know, Philip has a special out right now called Daddy's Home. Make sure you check that out. And if you want to follow him online, it's at Phil Comedy. Before we get into the episode, can I just say thank you for checking this out. Please do like, subscribe, leave a comment, rate the podcast, tell a friend, all of that good stuff to help it out. And we'll keep the episodes coming. But for now, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. Here is Philip Kostelecky. My guest today is comedian Philip Kostelecky. Phil, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. I have to start by saying it's Kostelecky.
All right. Just, usually us black people don't get pulled up like that. But, fair enough. You're exercising your white authority already early in the pod. Okay, fair enough.
Don't make this a race thing. Because I get off on that. I am one of the few comedians where I have like, when I do gigs, like I guess you call them black gigs. I don't know if you call them, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, I'll let you get away with that.
But then what happens is that because of my last name being like Polish Czech, the host will sometimes be like, this guy's name, I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to give it a go, but please welcome to the stage, Phil. And then I think a few people are always surprised that I'm not black. After he says I can't pronounce his last name, they never expect me to go, well, hey there, folks, how you doing?
I dig that. To be honest with you, though, I would prefer that from an MC as opposed to trying to pronounce the name and getting it wrong. Because I've done that before and got the name wrong. And it doesn't feel good, bro, for me or the act. And you just sit there contemplating.
Yeah, but also I think you need to get over it quickly. But anyway, thank you so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure, man.
I feel welcomed. You obviously, the listener doesn't know, but Roman's got a slick setup here. He had lo-fi beats when I walked in, a couple of scented candles burning. He's ready to fuck.
No,
that's what Roman's got a bit of a fuck house going here. I know your mother listens to this, so I'll be polite with the phrasing. There's a sexy vibe when you walk into Roman Harris's house.
Thank you, Phil. I've worked hard to cultivate this sexy vibe. Yeah. It's wasted on you, but nah.
It's still enjoyed. It's not wasted if it's enjoyed.
That is
and
fair.
you got the buttery voice to go with it.
Oh, so. Bless you. You know what? I got you on the podcast to find out more about you, but these compliments, you can just keep them flying, bro. I know. No, thank you so much for agreeing to do this, first and foremost. I want to start by kind of laying out my first memory of you. Yeah.
All right, sure.
My first memory of you was around 2021. The Blackout at Up the Creek.
Yeah. This is a funny memory.
This is where I remember you from. Now, the Blackout, if you don't know, it's a gong show. It's a show where comedians go up, they get 2 minutes of grace, and after 2 minutes, the audience can vote them off if they don't like what they're hearing.
Yeah.
Now, Phil went third, and I went fourth. And when I came off stage, I remember Phil saying he was like, I'm going to go home. And I was like, why are you going home? He was like, I'm probably not going to win. And I said to him, nah, you should stick around. And he was like, nah, I don't know. And I thought he left.
I did leave. And then I went all the way to the bus. I ran for the bus. And then I was standing there and I thought, no, fuck it. I'll go back because of how positive you were about me having to stay.
And he came back. And what happened, Phil?
We won together. we were joint winners.
We were joint winners.
But only because they saw that I was still there. If I had left, then you would have had the victory all to yourself.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, had I not had that moment with you and just said, nah, stick around, anything could happen, I would have been the outright winner of the Blackout on my very first attempt at the Blackout. But honestly, it was a really great thing to share it with you. I ain't going to lie. I never felt bitter about it.
I never felt, but I don't even think about it as much as you clearly do.
Clearly, I
every
do.
night before you go to bed, I could have been the sole winner of that weekly competition at the comedy club. But yeah, I think I think that says a lot about who you are as a person. That you express positivity, that you give up positivity to people, and it was really sweet. It was nice, and again, it was with like a set that I wasn't the material I did. I was kind of like about, but then they were like, oh no, we liked it. And so I think that, there's a lot of lessons we could learn from that message.
100%.
But generally, if as people are listening, Roman's a top guy, top lad. And
all right, you got to stop with the compliments.
I know,
now. I feel like, as comedians, we hate compliments. Like, it just makes us cringe for some reason. I don't know why that is, but yeah, it's like a self-deprecating thing. Like, you're telling me I'm good? That's all I've ever wanted to hear, but please stop.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, that's my first memory of you, dude. So thank you, Luck, again for agreeing to do this. When I reached out to you and I told you about the concept of this and asked you to write your own eulogy, what were the first thoughts that you had?
I thought, wow, what a great premise I thought it was a great premise for a podcast, both generally and also you individually, because essentially what you're doing is you're getting your guests to do all the hard work and then you just benefit off of their creative writing skills. So that's
please don't give away the secrets.
So clever that. But no, I think it was kind of been on the back of my mind. I had it in the calendar and I'll be honest with people, I didn't write it. I wrote it like kind of yesterday because I was just it was one of those things that I keep putting off. And then even what I've written now, I'm not 100% happy with, but I think it's also like I was saying to you earlier before the lights were on, that I don't really know if I want to fully explore the feelings around my death. Mm-hmm. So I think I kind of taken a bit more of a lighthearted approach and not a full serious idea to it. I think I could talk about how I'd like to be perceived after my death, but then to write my own eulogy, that seems very intense.
I got you. Well, you know what? I mean, I do understand that it's an exercise that for some people is going to be a bit more of a stretch and something that they're really not going to feel comfortable doing. Yeah. So the kind of thing is when I reach out to people and ask them if they'd like to be on the pod, I'm very understanding if they immediately turn to me and say, nah, it's not really for me.
Yeah.
I'm very understanding. But for those who do it, and however they wish to write it, whether it is comical, whether it's serious, like, I'm happy with whatever angle you go. Because really, the whole idea is that in this time, I'm going to hear it, but I'm going to get to know you. Yeah. And that's what I have with this. I want to get to know the person I'm sitting next to, you know? So with that being said, let's jump into it, man.
Let me read my eulogy.
This is Philipp Kostelecky's eulogy, written by Philipp Kostelecky.
Yeah.
See, look at that, learning.
So we'll put some organ music underneath, obviously.
Dude, I do the minimal amount of editing in this podcast. Like, don't even suggest things for me to do.
There we go. Bro. Anyway, so cool. Imagine everybody's very sad, but kind of in a beautiful, chic way.
Yep, love it.
Anyway, so dear friends and family, and my nemesis standing all the way in the back of the graveyard. Hello, I see you. We are gathered here today by my grave to celebrate my life. Yes, I've gathered you all here at my own funeral and played a hologram of myself, similar to what Kanye West did for Kim Kardashian. Like the Rob Kardashian hologram, I too will talk about my love for Kanye West, particularly his affinity to right-wing side of politics. And this is when I look around the room and I go, okay, perhaps not the time. As we remember the life of Philipp Kostelecky, we must remember, sadly, his death. Smothered by Oscar-winning actress Viola Davis sitting on his face. He died doing what he loved, pleasing a black woman. As Viola's lips suffocated him, his last words were, I can't breathe on my ears, goddammit. But the ruthless woman that she is, she laughed it off, assuming like many people had when he was being serious, that Philip was merely joking. Mrs. Davis, thank you for joining us today. Philip chose not to press charges due to the nature of him being dead, so the case was dismissed. Most people would not go into such excruciating detail about the cause of death, but details and specifics is what Philip loved. Born in Vienna to a Slovenian-American mother and an Austrian father, Philip was in many ways a European-American, which is as pretentious as it sounds. Philip's complete inability to commit to one nation of his ancestry in a vague attempt to seem like a more interesting white guy led to every conversation beginning with a series of meaningless questions about identity, culminating in the other person giving up asking. Throughout Philip's life, Philip often felt alone, which was his own doing. You fucking loser. Spits on grave. Oh, sorry. I realized I meant to not say spits. Through his life choice of pursuing a career in comedy, his extroverted social nature had to be subdued in space for long train, coach, and plane journeys, ruminating in his own thoughts. But it was these thoughts that he was able to make little jokes and routines, hoping to connect with the people that maybe they together could both feel alone. A clean-cut man, Philip never had a hair out of place or a hair on his chin. His lack of testosterone internally never quite matched his external face, which gave off a pleasant, if not quite douchebaggy vibe. Organized, but not enough to allocate time to actually writing a proper eulogy for this podcast, Philip aimed to please Viola Davis, which sadly would be his downfall. Dying at 26, Philip was a man of potential, but potential that will never be realized. If there was one thing I think summed up Philip well, was his favorite saying from his childhood, life is a playground. And it was Philip's saddest moments that he forgot this, but a little joke and a smile that crept from it would help him out in every moment, and I hope we can all take this attitude. A man lays buried in the ground, but the memory will live on in all of us. Thank you. A little sentimental at the end.
Yeah, you got a little bit sentimental at the end. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I like it. I think there were some other elements in there that, to be fair, kind of touched on a bit of sentiment. You know.
Yeah. My love for Viola Davis. And
all right, let's. I have a feeling there's so many places to jump off with your eulogy, and so many things that it prompts me to want to ask you. Yeah. But I'm just gonna start here and see where the conversation goes.
Yeah.
Do you have a thing for black women? No, I'm just gonna ask the question because Viola Davis is such a specific.
Well, I chose her because there was an alternative version of this speech.
Really? There was an alternative version.
But Roman requested that I change the details, given maybe I made some sort of joke about him and a member of his family instead.
There was an alternative version of the speech which will never ever come to light.
You can just think about me being a comedian thinking about Roman, and it relates to him in some way. Do I like black women? Yeah, I mean, fucking great, very attractive.
It would be really uncomfortable if now was the time when you were like, can't stand them. Honestly. Oh, God.
I'm glad you're a black man. Otherwise, this would be a problem. Do I have a thing for black women? Yeah, I mean, I've.
What to make it even more broad? What kind of women are you attracted to?
That's interesting. I just talked about my death, and the first thing you ask about what kind of women I'm attracted to.
Remember that, like I said, you read it, but this conversation will go wherever it goes, dude.
That's true.
So yeah.
So I guess we could start with love. Let's start with how about love as a broader topic.
Let's do it.
I'm straight. I think, and I
well, I'll tell you what, the lo-fi beats and the scented candles is making him question that right now.
Yeah, and whatever you put in this water, Roman.
Cosby. Go on.
Have you seen Norm Macdonald's? This is famous people water.
I don't think I have seen.
Oh man, it's great.
Yeah. Go on.
Love in general? What do I go for in women? I've always been really attracted to women who are from a different culture than mine.
Yeah.
And I'm not using that as a proxy for race. I mean, genuinely, so I grew up with like a kind of I'd say fairly European American household, in its kind of upbringing. And so, one of the first women I ever was in a relationship with, she was like French Algerian, which I really enjoyed, like hearing about that aspect of it. And then other women I've dated from other backgrounds. So I think it's, for me, love in general, it's way more about the person than it does other things. But I certainly have affinities towards certain communities, and but that's also not always like, I'm in a weird state now. I've been single for a while, and so I'm kind of just like, it's really about the person more than any of that kind of stuff.
When you say you have like more of an affinity for certain communities,
I was sort of teasingly saying I was attracted to black women. That was my joke there.
Okay.
So if you're listening, ladies,
you jump on his Instagram.
Yeah, jump on.
So, all right, let me backtrack because I know I jumped into love, and we're probably going to touch on that again at some point. Yeah. But the household that you grew up in, so you say it's like European American.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So tell me a bit about that. What's the mix in terms of who's the European, who's the American in your family?
So that's like my mom is Slovenian American, and then my father was Austrian, and I grew up partly in Austria and then in Slovenia, but I spent a lot of summers in the States.
Mm-hmm. Whereabouts in the States?
Kind of New York, Connecticut area where my grandparents lived.
I get that vibe from you.
And you pick up Connecticut. You can pick up Connecticut for sure. that Republican senator son vibe. And so where my grandparents lived was like not suburbia, but it was kind of like rural, but suburban in its sort of like, in its mindset, I think.
Okay.
In that it was like very family orientated where my grandparents were, and everyone was very well to do. It was like kind of Breaking Bad. Have you seen that?
Yep.
One of the things that made Breaking Bad such a good show is because it's basically about like these kind of like very well to do family members who never break the rules, right? And that's the kind of neighborhood that area was.
Okay.
That would be kind of the summer times, but then also I went to kind of international school where there was that kind of mindset as well.
How did you find that as a environment to be around? That kind of well-to-do, everyone does the right thing.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like rebellious towards that? Or
No, I never felt rebellious, but I also think partly was because our family was one of the outliers because of the fact my dad left when I was 9, and he was also not the nicest guy in the world. And we also had this kind of weird, like, kind of European American cultural background, which made us very different from everyone else who would be either just Slovenian or, like, in my international school, be just Serbian, just Italian. There wasn't like that sort of, even though culturally mixed is not so drastic. My father being Austrian, my mother being Slovenian, but still, it was at least there was this like other aspect of it, and I think mainly it was the family dynamics. There was no father in the picture, at least for most of my upbringing since the age of 9, which is 50% until 18, and so I think that was one of the biggest things where like I think that's why I didn't rebel that much, because I felt very bad for my mother and the family as a whole. So I felt like if I did something, I was already a bad student, which my mother hated.
Got you.
And was very annoyed at me for not being like as studious. So I think that kind of maybe like, if I'm already annoying her here, I don't think I have the option to annoy her there. And also didn't interest me as much. I kind of like the security of it. I don't know. Some people like read a lot into like what you are as a kid and how that affects you. But I don't know. I just didn't have that. It didn't have that want. I went out and drank sometimes, but my mother was very aware of it, and she was quite liberal in that sense. Like she knew we were going out to drink. She just didn't want us to get too drunk. But there were like right before I left university, I was on a waiting list for one university, and my mother was really fucking annoyed about that. Yeah. And so I think that was the only time I was rebellious, but that's because I was just so like I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know about my future, so I just needed a release.
You needed a release. I got you. You were saying in the sense of with your dad, he was out of the picture from around 9, and you also said that he wasn't necessarily the nicest guy.
Yeah.
What were your memories of that?
What were my memories? So I'm lucky in that I was younger, so I think I got like less of it. But he was very mean to my brother. I remember growing up, and he would shout often. He was very verbally like kind of antagonistic, and he had like a very scary. He was a scary guy in a lot of ways. He was like quite big, not tall, but just like strong. I have like pleasant memories with him as well. Like there were a lot of like. It seems like silly, but there was one time on my birthday, like, man, this is such a weird memory to think about, but like he made me breakfast and he made me like a cheese and ham, like open face sandwich or whatever. And he cut out the cheese so that it said Phil on it.
Okay.
I mean, which is just really bizarre. We like, I have like weird memories of like him peeling oranges for me and that being like a sweet thing. Or one time he took me for ice cream and stuff like that. But I don't have like tons of it. And so it was more the idea of him. I would like rest on his belly sometimes when we were watching films as a family. So I like liked him a lot. But I think even at the time I was aware that he would get very angry at my brother. And my two brothers, so my sister as well. He would get very angry at us, and as I got older, I've heard from my mother and through other people, through my sister, they told me stories about how he was very intimidating. He would at times be loving, but it was just like. But I think I was also so young, I wasn't really aware about it. So when he left, I was really sad that he was gone, but I wasn't even aware of like the fact that maybe things were a bit calmer around the house and stuff like that. But yeah, he was just gone from like the age of 9, and then he was gone for like 5 years, and then I saw him like 3 more times, and then he died when I was 16. So I only seen from the age of 9 to his death, which also I didn't attend his funeral, although very recently I went to go visit his grave in Vienna.
Why didn't you attend the funeral?
The family tensions were just so bad at that point that we were not even invited. Like we were asked not to go, but we wouldn't. I mean, like if we had went, it would have just been chaos. And I also don't think I regret not going because. At the time, I mean, like, at the time he died, I barely knew the guy.
Yeah.
How
did it feel visiting the grave recently?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I went with my eldest brother, who is not actually related to my father in any way. It's not his biological father. We share a mother. It's my half brother, but we were raised like brothers, so that's how we think.
Very similar in my family. Yeah. I've got 3 older sisters, one of which we have the same mother and father. Yeah. The other 2 we don't, but I would never look at them as anything but my sisters.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like they're half sisters technically, but I get it.
Yeah, so we went together, and my father was weirdly enough a lot more his father than he was my father. Like my brother had an adult relationship with my father, which sounds sexual when he said it like that, but no, he was an adult and had an actual. I was very cognizant of his relationship with my father. Yeah. And we both went, and we felt something. I was like, whoa, okay. But there was nothing there. I've thought about it since then. both of us went and we both agreed that like kind of it didn't mean anything. The only thing I think I found very surprising about it, it's very weird to see your own last name on a gravestone.
Okay.
That was bizarre because I'd never had that before, because both only funerals I went to were my grandparents, who both had different last names. But to see your own name on a, like, I saw Kostelecky on a grave, and 2 graves down, which whenever I say it, do you know the Dolly Parton song 2 Doors Down?
I don't. There's
2
so
doors down.
many references you have today where
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know any of
There's
this.
this Dolly Parton called 2 Doors Down, and it was always funny because I was at the gravestone. I said 2 graves down.
Got you.
It was my grandparents.
Did it get a laugh?
What, at the funeral?
When you did it at the
grave
gravesite?
No.
Okay, I know.
It was more of an internal thought. I didn't share it. But then
Okay.
two graves down was my grandparents from my father's side, who I never met. Both died before I was born, and they also had my last name. So it was the first time seeing my last name on a tombstone, and that felt a bit like oof. Also, my uncle died, and I had no idea about that. But I wasn't even that close to him. But he was buried with my father. So that whole experience was a bit like, whoa, okay, you know? So weirdly, kind of maybe death has been kind of present a little bit recently for me, or at least the thinking about it. But yeah, I was kind of like, I kind of think about it. There's a photo of me, like we put like a candle by the grave just to do something. And there's a photo my brother took of me when I was putting, or his wife, when we put the candle down. And I look at that photo and I think, there's something to that. There's a powerfulness when I look at that photo of, you know, a son putting a candle on his father's grave is a bit of a weird thing, but I have pulled no lessons from it. There's no immediate thoughts I have. It's just like a bit of a spooky feeling.
I don't think I've actually experienced that in a sense. When I think about my family, I've been quite lucky.
Yeah.
Not a lot of my family members have actually passed away since I've, and I say passed away again, died. Right? Because
What's the issue with passed away?
Because it's in a previous episode, but I speak about the fact that I sometimes soften the words, and I don't know who I'm doing that for. Like, instead of saying died, I say passed away, or are they with us anymore? You know what I mean? Yeah. When really, let's just be matter of fact about things sometimes.
I don't think it doesn't matter whatever you do. If you want to be a bit softer with it, maybe, are you fearful of their death? Sorry, are you fearful of them passing away?
No. I don't think I'm fearful of it. I'm my relationship with death is very matter of fact, and it's just I'm very present with it, in the sense that I know it's gonna happen, and at some point it's gonna happen for the people I love. It might happen for me first before them. Like, you just don't know. So I've never really felt fearful of it. I just accept it as a part of life. And sometimes thinking about it makes me want to live more, want to take more chances, want to kind of get out of my own way. So yeah, but no, I'm not really. I think the softening of it is maybe just because I like to be diplomatic. Like, I've got a thing in me that's just like diplomacy. Like, I don't want to upset people. So it's like, I'll use the nicest language. But
is that a trait that bothers you about yourself?
Sometimes, because I think sometimes it does help to be direct, more direct, especially with comedy. I think sometimes it's like the harshest thing to say is often the funniest thing to say.
Yeah, for sure.
And as the more you talk on stage, as the more you learn to trust that filter. Where you're like, no, I'm just going to say this and it's going to sound really harsh, but I know it's funny. You're going to laugh too. And I won't beat myself up about it later. But I beat myself up a lot, which is why I try my best to say the right things in the moment so that I won't beat myself up for ages afterwards, you know? Sure. But with the seeing like a name on a gravestone, you know, I haven't experienced that before. But I know since we've started talking, you talk a lot about family and like the upbringing, the grandparents, etc. How do you stand with family in terms of wanting a family of your own? Is it something that you've thought about?
Yeah, 100% I want a family of my own. I know that. I've known that for a long time. I'm just waiting for my beautiful black woman, my black queen. I've always wanted a family. Not always, but like definitely in the past 3 or 4 years, it's definitely been a want. And it's not for the reasons of trying to be like the father I never had, or even more like narcissistically create the son I could have been, or something like that. It's just because I like kids. I think I'd be a good dad, and I just want that sort of. I want to open up that avenue of love for myself to like, and I like I've not done it a lot, but a bit in comedy. I've sometimes not mentored, but definitely given advice to people who are starting out or younger comedians. And I've enjoyed that aspect of it. So to be a sort of a nurturer, a leader, and, I think I could really I'd love to have the love to open up that avenue of love, but then also to feel like I could give something to somebody. Maybe it's because I felt I never got it, but I don't think it's that, because there are people who are like that. They say, I want to have a kid because I didn't feel my childhood was good enough, and which is a weird reason to want it. I just have the biological want. I just think,
Got you.
Yeah.
Why has it been the last 3 to 4 years?
I think I'd had a relationship, and that makes you think about, I could have a partner. I could have kids with this person. I've had like one or two in the past 3 to 4 years. Maybe it's also just getting older. I just think, really enough, the past year I've just gotten a lot calmer and a lot like more relaxed about things, and that has made me like excited to have kids and stuff like that. But I'm not in a rush. I'm only 26, so I got time.
It's you. I mean, yeah, you got time, and luckily for men, we can take our time.
Yeah,
we can be a bit lazy with it. And that's a blessing and a curse, to be fair. Sometimes it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because you think you have time, and then you start to realize time's running out. I mean, something I started to feel more recently, the thing about getting older and feeling calmer.
Yeah.
I do believe that is something that can happen with age. There's an element that you just calm down a bit more. I think it's great that you feel so confident, though, about knowing you want a family.
Yeah.
That's something I've never experienced. I've never experienced the confidence of knowing I definitely want to have kids.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, I start to feel like now it's like if I have them, I start thinking, how much time am I going to have with them?
Yeah.
And that's the other side, why it's a bit of a double-edged sword at times with taking your time. But then if you take too much time, you start regretting the other side of it.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just naive, but like it just seems like every parent you talk to, like they have no time in the world at all.
Yeah, that's what it definitely feels like.
But I just sort of, maybe I probably am naive. Any parent listening will be like that. But I see so many like people who are able to just like to make it work. And I also think, if you're lucky, if you have friends and stuff like that, you have to rely, I think, part of parenting, I think, is relying on friends to help out and stuff like this.
Yeah.
I think obviously the first few years when the kid's like completely, like in your, in control, but like, I know people who have like kids and they like never go out ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I get that you can't go out forever, but I'm fucking, it's gonna be two guys who don't have kids talking about what it's like to raise a kid.
I think anything that gets the comments flowing and people angry, that helps boost the algorithm. Anyway, go on. Yeah.
But it just seems like, I don't know, it doesn't seem this like chaos that people make it. I mean, if you have a bunch of kids as well, also I'm lucky in that I work like an office job. So, and part of it's working from home. So like, my day job alongside doing comedy is that. And if I were just doing stand-up as well, I'd have like my hours would be more flexible.
Yeah.
So I think I look at it a lot differently. And also, I mean, freaking hell, if you're like working 3 or 4 jobs and you're still struggling to pay rent and you have kids, that's going to be stressful. But people fucking do it.
Yeah, people find a way. I think that's just a human trait. Like, put a human in any situation and they figure it out. They find a way.
Not every human.
All right, fair enough. Not every human.
Let me go on a big fucking rant about the population control. There's some of us that are just born better,
All right, fair enough. Some people really don't find a way. And those people are dead. Yeah. Loneliness.
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask about that.
Oh, you put it in there. Look, you should have just put it in capitals. I mean, clearly, I'm going to touch on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that you've always felt or often felt alone.
Yeah.
Why so? Tell me about that.
I just spent a lot of time alone. Not often, but maybe as a kid I felt a bit out of place and stuff like that as well. But yeah, I realized I'm extroverted by nature. Like I really need to hang out with people in order to feel good about myself or to feel better. That doesn't mean I don't mind spending time alone. But if I was given the choice to do an activity with somebody or alone, I would. And it's also about the person. Like I'm not gonna just be a random person. But like if for example, my best friend is this guy called Peter. If I was given the choice to do something alone or to do it with him, I would obviously always choose him. Like 9 times out of 10. But then there's sometimes I do enjoy doing stuff by myself. But yeah, it's just through doing comedy at my day job right now. I work from home. Like I just spend a lot of time by myself, and it is not what I prefer, but it is because I've pursued comedy.
Yeah, which is a pursuit that can often make you feel very,
you're alone
very
on
isolated.
Stage. You often take the trains to the gigs alone, especially when the gigs I'm doing, a lot of them are like out of town, and it's either the opener or the headliner will be driving, but they're not always driving with me. So I Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel lonely, and then sometimes I feel alone. It's not always as bad.
The distinction that you would make between feeling lonely and feeling alone, how would you
Feeling alone feeling alone I think is more based off of fact. Like if you are alone, you're alone, right? But it is not necessarily sad, whereas feeling lonely I think is sad. But you can also, and the biggest distinction is you can feel lonely even with other people. And I think loneliness comes from feeling not understood by somebody else.
So when you were growing up,
yeah,
did that feeling of loneliness, right? Not being alone, but loneliness, like maybe not being understood, or whatever the case may be. Did you have that as you were growing up?
Yeah, 100%. I think looking back on it, I felt lonely in a lot of occurrences, but I did a lot of things to distract me. I played a lot of video games. I watched stand up. I procrastinated from school. But I sort of look at that time now. I'm a bit annoyed because I think I could have learned a lot of skills and improved myself as an individual. Such a CEO mindset I'm taking. I could have been buying property, dude. I could have been investing in Bitcoin. But I don't see it as negative. I feel very the benefit of it is that when I hang out with people and I enjoy it, I really have a great time and I'm really looking forward to it. But then when I do spend time on myself, you become a lot better at it. It's a skill that I didn't want to learn, but you kind of just have to.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
But I think one of the things I wanted to talk about, I guess, is relevant in that paragraph is one of the reasons I like doing stand-up. And the reason I love stand-up is when I watch it, I feel less alone because I look at somebody saying something or doing something and I feel like it relates to me. And it could even be even if it's just their sense of humor, I go oh, fuck that. I love that. I feel seen or felt or understood by an external person.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a joke that I would even write or if it's even an experience I have, but it's just the way that this guy. Have you seen this guy Ralph Barbosa?
Yeah.
Fuck me, dude. He is so good.
He is.
But you watch him and it's just what fun this is, and that's kind of what I want to get from life. And so I've said this a few times though, but if I could do that for anybody in stand-up, then I'd be happy.
Let's touch on that. Let's get with your journey into stand-up.
Yeah.
When did that start?
Started when I was a kid. I was 14, 13, watching stand-up on TV.
Who were you watching? Or what were you watching?
It was Comedy Central Presents. They used to have them in Slovenia, back to back, these kind of half-hour specials. And I just watched them and I just fell in love with it. I just saw people talking about stuff, making people laugh. And I was looking at that and I was that's so clever. It's so amazing. It was just magical to me.
Was there anyone who stood out to you? Names you remember that really had a
I remember
big
Jimmy
impact?
Carr, even though right now I don't think he's not my style of comedian at all. But I remember him being in the mix. There was some other people I can't remember really, but then I started to watch a lot of comedians online. I used to watch a lot of 8 out of 10 Cats, the panel shows. Then I started to watch a lot of Bill Burr, Louis, Dave Chappelle, Conan. Started to watch a lot of that. So just a lot of the American acts.
Yeah.
And then I just started doing it when I was in university a little bit, and then got into it afterwards when I moved to London in 2018. And I'd say it's only about the past year or two that I felt a lot more comfortable and confident, and that I think more and more people relate to it or are sold on the idea of me and my style of comedy, which is nice.
So did you feel did you feel like when you first started out there wasn't that relatability? There was maybe a little bit of a disconnect?
I think it was a disconnect from who I was as a person. And I think it's kind of what I said at the end of the eulogy, which was about life being like a playground.
Jeez, man, give me something. Let me get to it. Jesus Christ. But this guy's just quoting his own eulogy all the way through. Oh man.
It was what it actually was. I was doing another podcast recently.
Yeah.
Kwan Won Hyung's. And he's really into his research, and he found old clips of mine from my university radio show that were really silly and goofy.
Yeah.
And then he said about the first time he met me that I was such a serious comedian and I was trying to be so cool and interesting. And then now, only recently, has it started to be silly again. Excuse me. And he said he looked at me and he said, that silliness was always there, Philip, but you got rid of it. Why did you get, he was analyzing me as a person.
Yeah.
And I was oh, that's really fucking good point, actually, that I did used to be silly. I didn't care as much. And then I became an adult and I started caring again. So I think that's kind of the whole, I like to be, if I were to be remembered, I'd like to be remembered as somebody who maybe, was a bit sillier. But then sometimes you do write stuff and it is serious and it is a bit harsh and a bit edgy. So it's just trying to find that balance. I think it's fun to do like silly stuff.
Yeah,
I like being silly. I don't do it now because it's weird on this format, but I like doing voices. I like doing characters. I like having fun.
Yeah. Because the more fun you're having, it's the more fun we're having as an audience.
Yeah.
And when I watched you the other night when we were at Top Secret, there's the act outs and there's the joyfulness on stage, and I feel like that transcends. And it doesn't mean that you can't be serious. But if you have that ability to also be that free and that kind of like wacky and whatever the case, whatever words you want to use, it allows the nice
whimsical, darling.
It allows people to enjoy the whole spectrum of you, because we're complex individuals. We're not just all serious, and we're not just all fun. We're a little bit of everything.
You know what I love, that people who are like only serious. I find those people really funny.
Really?
Yeah, where they're just like, they're so monotone and they're so like that. But then if they're slightly heightened and aware of it, those people are really funny. The ones who are like monotone, very like neutral people, but then are aware that that's how they're perceived.
Yeah.
Like this guy, my friend Alice, her boyfriend is this guy Oliver, and he's German, and he is so German. Like he just talks very serious monotone voice.
Yeah.
And he's very like aware of that's how he comes across, and so he plays into it a lot, which is fucking great. There was one time, apparently she was telling me a story about how he came up to her once, came up to Alice, and he said, "Oh, just so you know, I've learned a new expression today in English, and I'm going to use it at some point today." And she was like, "Oh, okay," which is quite a silly little thing to do, but he's so serious in the way he delivers it. She goes, "Okay." And so then anyway, they're driving in the car later. It's her, Oliver's driving, and the mom's in the back. And they go through a roundabout, right? And which are like obviously very common in the UK, but not in Europe. And Alice's mother goes, "Oh, well, Oliver, you're so good at dealing with roundabouts. It's really impressive because they don't have a lot of them in Germany." And then they paused, and then he looked at her and just went, "Not my first rodeo." Right?
Yeah.
But it's so funny because he delivers it in such a serious way, but he knows that it's goofy. And also the whole setup with the whole thing, and then. So I love that. There's also a guy who works at the Frog and Bucket. I think his name is Colin. He's very serious individual, but then if they can play off of it. And so I think that's what's fun, is when you see somebody and they open up that extra side to them. Because almost everybody has it. Yeah. That's what I'm always so impressed. Like world leaders. You know about world leaders?
You know world leaders. You ever heard of them?
You ever heard of them?
You ever seen them around from time to time?
Just like you see them, and sometimes they're so serious, man.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're dealing with, but like Putin never fucking cracks a joke.
Well, I think Obama was good for showing like the other side, or like that other human side.
But then there's a sinister aspect to that, because like he'd be joking and then he'd just drop like bombs.
Drop
a bomb on a wedding in fucking. In the Middle East.
But if you can do it in a charming way,
exactly.
You get a little bit further. You say you're a clean cut man. Yes. Is that said in jest, or do you actually see yourself as a clean cut man?
It's said in jest, as in people jokingly say it about me.
Yeah.
But I think I mean, I'm like I have very little facial hair, so it's very easy to be clean cut. But the problem, I wish I had a bit more. But like the problem is, I'm at the level of facial hair where if I grow any more. If I grow it out, it looks worse. It's not like I actually can grow a beard or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I kind of have to go with that. But I like feeling clean. I recently got into moisturizing.
You know what?
Yeah.
So did I. Well, no. That's a lie. I'm black. I've always been into moisturizing.
Yeah.
But what
do you think I learned it from?
Them black girls.
All of my queens.
But what I got into recently was facial care. And I've actually been like, and I'm not going to ask you if you can tell, please, I can't. But I've been using like Lumen and like doing like some face care routines.
Yeah, your skin does look good.
Thanks, dude. But yeah, man, I've been moisturizing. So you got into moisturizing
recently? Yeah, I've only. It's actually very quick. The results, like, I did it two or 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
And then this morning I was in the shower and I felt my skin and I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's way softer than it's ever been.
That's what it does,
It's great. And you feel like good.
Yeah. I don't know why more people don't do it, specifically white people.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Like, because when you were growing up, I take it that was not something that your parents
My
did
mother,
in the house.
my father obviously not. Lol. My mother moisturized.
It would be so weird if your father, this guy who's so big and loud, and you just catch him in the candlelight when he comes out of the shower, just moisturizes.
Moisturizing.
You know?
Yeah, it is one of those things that like it's not a lot of white people do, but I don't know why. It's like maybe you know because part of it's because we don't see dry skin as easily.
That's what I was gonna say. I think it's basically because you don't see it. Like with darker skin, you actively walk out and you're like, damn, like I got white spots in between my fingers and I'm ashy. But I think you can we just get away with it.
I get like dry knuckles and stuff like that. So I moisturize. I've moisturized my face for a long time just because it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If it feels dry. My mother used to moisturize a lot, but I feel weird to think about memories of me watching my mother moisturize her whole body. That feels a bit uncomfortable.
Well, you know, it depends on how she took to it. Maybe she enjoyed your eyes on her. I don't know.
Oh God, that's even worse. Even worse than a joke about me sexualizing my mother is a joke about my mother wanting to be sexualized by me.
Oh, bless.
Yeah, moisturizer's fucking great, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm glad that you've got into it. I'm trying to encourage more white people that I meet to get into it.
Yeah, how do you think we get this across? Because that's the thing is,
man,
you know,
that's the struggle.
this is the thing. Face moisturizer, I think you'll be able to get across pretty well because it keeps you looking young.
Yeah.
Right. The more you moisturize your face, the younger you'll stay, and everyone kind of wants to look young. But no one gives a shit if my rib is old.
Well, that's the thing. I think you know the human body is like this. If you can't see it, a lot of people don't really pay attention to it. They don't care about it for themselves.
Yeah.
You know, that's why like foot care is such a terrible thing.
And you love feet.
I love feet, right? But so like for me,
my foot care is pretty bad. I got like a lot of like on my foot here. I think it's like I don't know what it is, but like if you play sports, it like rubs against the skin. And so it's like they're
like hard skin.
I have like uneven skin on my feet.
This is the section of the podcast where everyone's gonna switch off.
Yeah,
like, I'm pretty confident.
And this is where you switch on.
This is where this is my forte, baby.
Yeah, I got to get into my foot care.
But it's because they're at the end, like they're all the way down there.
Yeah.
And like it's the end of your body, and the only time we really care about it is the summertime in the UK, and the sun's only out for a short period of time. So I think there's so many reasons as to why we don't really care. But as I've gotten older, I've got more into like looking after the parts of my body that I know I'm gonna need when I get older. And you need your feet. Love. I know we started with love, and I wanted to come back to it. What's kept you single? Do you feel like you've just enjoyed being single, or have you just made a conscious effort to take a bit of time out from dating?
I don't take time out from dating. I mean, this is as harsh as I can make it sound. I just don't find anybody I want to be in a relationship with.
No, that's not harsh. It's just honest.
Yeah, and I there's just people. For me to really like somebody, they have to be like. First of all, this is what I've noticed as well, is you just need to have that chemistry there. That you cannot control for that. But also there are times I'm on dates. I've been dating a little bit recently. I went on maybe like 4 dates over the past 2 months, like first dates and then maybe 1 or 2 second dates. Let me just, big crack. Oh, nice. Big crack of my knuckles.
Okay.
Okay. That's the sign of a guy going, I don't know how to respond to this.
That's a sign of a guy going,
I think knees. You ready?
This is a sign of a guy going, I think I may actually have to do some editing of this podcast. Go
What's
on.
kept me single, man? I don't know. Like sometimes I've been on dates with people and they just bring no fucking energy to the date.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and then they're like so quiet. My friend Fernanda always gets annoyed at me and she's always like, you know, Philip, some people take a while to open up. And she said this to me after every date I've been on. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, some people do, but like I don't have like 8 years to wait for you to finally be yourself. You know what I mean? Like we're on date 15 and she's like, I'm finally ready to. I'm like, dude, I have spent so much money on my own drinks. Obviously, I always go 50-50 on a date, by the way.
Okay. How does that work out for you? Do you get pushback on that?
No. I think if I'm dating somebody who expects me to like completely pay for it, this is the thing that I find interesting. I'm on TikTok sometimes and it seems that there's a huge majority of like, and I'm going to generalize here and I'm going to say women and the men obviously who agree with this do exist as well. but you just expect that the man should just be like paying for the first date, everything. I just think that's so stupid, because it's like, it's a first date. I don't know how I feel about you. You don't know how you feel about me. I'm like would I have to allocate like a huge budget of my finances every day to like go on dates? And also, if you're not able to financially support yourself on the first date, and by the way, I always do like drinks. I don't ever do food or anything maybe like mini golf or something like that. But you should go 50-50 on it, because it's like, it's only fair to show that, like, the whole thing is, it's like in sickness and in health, right?
Yeah.
If I'm sick, you should at least have like some infrastructure in place to have a job already, or to be able to get a job. If we were, let's say we were in if we were in a position where I was the sole provider, right?
Yeah.
Which would probably not be a dating situation that I ever get into. But if that was the case for whatever reason, maybe comedy's going really well and they wanted to like, they're going like, hey, I want to pursue this other thing. Fine.
Yeah.
But to have no infrastructure in place to have worked or to get a job, I just something like, what are you bringing? This is what I find annoying. I see these people on TikTok. I'm getting into this on TikTok. And I think like, you have to think honestly, what are you bringing to the dating world? What are you bringing to the relationship? And fucking having a fat ass and being interesting having a fat ass and big tits is not enough. You have to bring a real personality to a relationship, because that is something that can sustain. And I'm only saying this, I'm talking about very sub-specific, sub-Saharan, sub-specific. I was going to say sub-Saharan because that's just like a phrase that's used a lot. I'm talking about a subgroup and a very specific group of like women I see online. Usually it's the ones who are like, they're not like reality shows, but they're like sort of pseudo reality dating shows. And I think they find them on purpose because it makes for great content. Or like those, like where they talk to people on the streets. And they go like, what's the biggest ick in a guy? And they'll be like, a guy who doesn't like earn 100K pounds or something like that. I'm like, dude, what are you on about?
Now
what are you bringing?
Now
to
the
table?
thing is, I have to ask, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, you're okay. All right, cool. I definitely understand where you're coming from, and I agree. I agree in terms of the splitting things 50-50. Like, I've always been a big advocate for that. Like, whether or not it's cost me relationships or not, then it's cool, because in a way, it's kind of like, I don't want to be in a relationship with you if you don't see going 50-50 on our first date or first few dates as something viable. Like, if that's your mindset that I have to cover everything, then genuinely I don't want to be with you anyway.
I can't afford to cover everything.
And that's the other thing. It's like, realistically, I can't. Like, I'm looking after me. And the idea, I saw this great thing the other day where it was like, I'll look after me and you look after you, right? And that's the best thing we can do for our relationship, because I'll get better, and that makes me a better person for you. If you get better, you become a better person for me.
100%.
Right? And the idea that I am the one who's like paying for everything, I agree also. I'm not on that. If I suggest I want to take you out and it's all on me, right? That's fine. If I'm the one who's like, no, I got this tonight. Like, I want to take you somewhere. It's a special evening.
100%.
Then that's 100%. But it's the expectation. Expectation. See, now I'm getting angry. But expectation is the thing that kills you, because it's like, if I'm expected to do something, I don't really want to do it anymore. But if it's, if I'm the one making the decision, then that's different. But nevertheless, I get where you're coming from. However, what I would say is, TikTok. And all of these platforms, like, that's the smallest percentage of people. Of course. And the idea is to get you angry, because the angrier you are, is the more you stay on the platform.
100%.
So just,
that's what I'm aware. I'm aware it's a very small group, but they seem to get so much fucking airtime.
Yeah, but that's only.
But obviously to push like a narrative.
Yeah.
But the thing is to be fair, almost every woman that I've gone on a date with, that has never been an issue. Yeah. Because I live up, probably because I like. You want, like, I don't know if it's but like, I think most people are pretty reasonable nowadays, and I think, I hate when fucking male comedians do this whole bit about like, women, you say you want equality, but you want to pick and choose. Like, no, there's actually a lot of stuff that they're really like. I think 50-50 on dates is perfectly okay. I think it's just sort of seen it, because then you're equal to the other person. Yeah. Because if it's like I'm paying for everything, then I'm like above in some way. And also, like, I never want to. I also don't believe that if you do pay for everything, that you are entitled to anything else, right? Yeah. But I think that there's sometimes that I was just gonna be like, but you know what I mean? No.
Yeah, but I think
I don't think so. If you don't think so,
yeah.
I'm kidding.
I think there is that element also though, and that's why like sometimes you might offer to buy a drink for a woman and she's like no, because she feels like if you buy her something then you expect something. And I think if you're gonna do something, do it out the kindness of your heart. Do it with a genuine motivation.
What a good guy you are.
No, I
respect women.
You know what? Actually,
does things out of the kindness of his heart. Actually,
I
don't respect women.
No, this is actually something that I'm so glad you said that, because like I try to be a good guy.
Yeah,
I try. I don't always succeed.
Bitches.
But these motherfuckers,
these hoes,
they be fucking with me, dog. No, but what I was gonna say is, the last time we were at Top Secret and we were talking, because I have a bit in my stand up about cheating.
Yeah.
And we got into you were asking me quite a lot of questions about cheating. Yeah. Right. And I was telling you, I've done it before and I wrote a bit about it and blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to ask you that day, why so many questions? Not that it was a problem, but I was like, is this something that you did? Is it something that had been done to you? Like what? Because there was a genuine interest.
I've never cheated on record. Never cheated officially.
Yeah. Officially sounds really
legally. If you read the handbook, if you read the situationship handbook, no, I've never cheated. I've never been cheated on. But it interests me because I just it's just something I never think I could do.
Yeah.
But I think but it's also something that if it were done to me, it'd be over.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed, or not impressed, but I'm surprised at people who can maintain a relationship post cheating.
Yeah.
That's something for me is like shocking. I was just interested because you had done it. And then like, I think one of the questions I asked you was like, what did it feel like after, because like obviously all that sexual buildup, then you cheat, you sleep with a person, but then when you finish, the whole shit moment, right? But then you said something great, which was that I said to you, what was that post nut clarity like?
Yeah.
And you said you didn't actually finish, but you realized the mistake anyway, so you had no nut clarity.
That's
which
right.
is one of my favorite sentences I think you've ever said.
Well, thank you very much. Of all the bits that I've written and all the time that he's seen me, this is the favorite thing of mine.
But I just thought that was so interesting. And like, I think cheating for me is just a fascinating thing because it's like, it's so horrible.
Yeah.
I think about this sometimes, which is that, excuse me, I've had people in my life who I thought were friends essentially.
Yeah.
Or like, in relationships who then caused me to feel very badly about myself and caused me to feel a lot of pain. And I know that I've maybe said things to people and have caused that pain to them, which I feel really guilty about because I know what it feels like to feel like belittled in that way or to have trust broken in such a way. And so I think that's why for me cheating, I could just not imagine doing it because the pain, I mean, obviously you're aware of this. I'm saying this to you now, making you feel bad, but the pain it must cause is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because it's like that trust that you believed in something, and so that's I think why it fascinates me as a subject.
Yeah. And
I don't know why. Oh yeah, this is another thing. Earlier we were talking about me realizing I was extroverted. Another thing I realized about myself is I'm quite a sensitive person.
Got you.
Not in the sense that I like if people are mean to me I can't take it, but like if I feel things a lot and like I feel sad when I feel sad, like it actually the feelings are present, and I don't like to. I think maybe I assume that everyone is as sensitive as I am, and so I think that's part of it. And that's why I like to make people feel better. Like that's kind of what I enjoy about stand-up is if someone coming up to me afterwards and being like, "Oh, I felt better because of what you did," is like, I'm like, "Oh," because I know what it feels like to just like hate yourself and feel so shit. And so to have that little bit of love or that little bit of joy come out of that, and that's really all it ever takes, just that little nugget just to start.
Yeah,
I think is so great.
Yeah.
But then to rob somebody of it like you did.
No, Phil, stop making me feel like a bad person.
You are a bad person, Roman. No, I don't. I also don't get mad at people if they make mistakes and hurt people. Like as long as they learn their lesson.
Wow, I feel this really feels like I'm being told off by someone who's over a decade my junior. But nevertheless,
you're 38?
Yeah.
No.
How did you guess 38 when you're 26?
I just thought you couldn't be 37. I just knew it. I just felt it.
Yeah, you felt my evenness of age.
Yeah.
The reality is I don't feel bad about it. Like nothing that you've said in your speech
has made you feel. Yeah.
No, it doesn't make me feel bad as a person because I've been through the feeling of feeling bad.
Yeah.
Like
which doesn't help. If you felt bad about it now, you'd be useless.
And the thing is, you have to.
How old were you when this happened?
How old was I? I was probably
35.
No.
You in your 20s.
I was in my 30s.
Whoa.
I was in my 30s.
You were a mature cheater.
Yeah. The thing is, it's like when bad things happen, or if you do something of that nature, you do I beat myself up a lot. Yeah. Like, because, even like I was saying earlier, like I don't even want to say something harsh on stage to someone, right? I'm always like, what's the nicest way that I can possibly say something? And I felt like shit afterwards, and you do feel like shit, and then you punish yourself. Yeah. And you find different ways to punish yourself.
Punish yourself.
I punish myself, Daddy. You find different ways to punish yourself, and I punish myself through exercise. Then I punish myself through eating and drinking.
Punish yourself through exercise. Oh man, so you basically cheated on someone, and then you got
then
fucking
then
swole.
I got
then you're huge. Oh man, that's so tough. So now you could just cheat on more people. That's what you did. I really punished myself. I got a 6-pack. It was horrible.
That's so funny. I might take that if I can.
Take it, man.
No, but like, and then alcohol and just eating shit.
So you fucking worked out and you had a great time.
And then I went to Vegas.
Go to Vegas. I won a bunch of money. I started working at my job really hard. Got promoted. Man, I was punishing myself. I
never recovered. To be honest with you, I'm just winning.
I had to buy a house. It was that bad.
But no, it's But you have to learn. I feel like in life, you do have to learn how to forgive yourself. You have to learn how to forgive yourself.
I got in great shape. I got loads of money. And then I forgave myself.
You make it sound so bad. But genuinely, you got to. But no, you do. That's the only way to work through stuff,
Man, what a tough life you've had.
Oh, man. Please, spare a thought for me. But yeah, no, I do think I totally get where you're coming from. I take your point, and it's terrible. It really is. Like, it's terrible on both sides. So, like I say to people,
one side is much worse.
It's
harder to be the one cheated on.
It is.
Think about like everything you hated about yourself. Like, at least you had.
The thing is, you know what it is? It's not a competition. And the reason I say it's not a competition
because there's a clear loser.
Because like there is, in essence, there is. But it's like the other thing is, I would never, like the excuse thing when people are like, why did you do it? In my mind, I always say, there's no reason that I could ever give that would explain or really justify it. Yeah. I think trying to justify an action like that is pointless. There can be things that lead up to it, right? And there can be catalyst moments, but trying to actually justify it and be like,
do you think the person who you are today would never have done that?
Yeah. I feel like the person I am now.
Was it immature, you think?
I think there's a degree of, yes, there is a massive degree of immaturity because communication is the one thing that was lacking and would have actually been the thing that was needed.
Do you think that relationship would have, regardless of the cheating, would have ended?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
No, but yeah. Oh, thanks, Phil. Phil said it's cool now.
Yeah.
No, but like, I genuinely do, and I think that's the case because it was going in that direction. But what it needed was honest communication. Yeah. What it needed was just an honest moment of two people saying how they really felt. Yeah. And then a handshake, a kiss on the cheek, and maybe go your separate ways.
Yeah, it's interesting that you probably were very sad, and you're probably even miserable in that relationship in some capacity, I imagine, or just not happy with it.
I think that I know exactly what it was. Like, I know exactly what I was feeling.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. It's like, just you need to be able to take those feelings and turn them into language and talk.
What a beautiful way to phrase it. You have to take those feelings and turn them into language. That's great.
But
I like
do.
That.
You do.
I think that's also something you realize as you get a bit older is that you're maybe also, if you've been in a relationship that hasn't been good, is your tolerance for accepting shittiness internally. I mean, like feeling like shit.
Yeah.
You get rid, like the sooner you can get rid of that, the better. Like if you're walking around and you feel like shit all the time and you just think like something has to change. Yeah. I have to have something different about me. There was a great clip I saw from Theo Vaughn yesterday where he says his quote is "Nothing changes if nothing changes."
Yeah.
Which is great, which is so good. So, yeah, I'm glad you came out of it. You look great.
Thanks, man.
Love your house.
I got ripped and swole. Nah.
Ripped and swole. No, I was just sort of teasing on that. But I think it's just, I'm very fascinated with the feelings people have and unique feelings.
Yeah.
That people do, and like self-hatred or like I'm very into people.
Right. I mean, people are fascinating.
Yeah.
And they also are like very annoying too. Like there's times I can't stand people. And there's other times when I'm like, man, what fascinating, things we are. And that's why I've got to a stage now where I like conversation. I like talking. I like listening to conversations because you learn a lot about other people, but you learn a lot about yourself in the process.
Yeah.
Even this chat that we've had today, like, there's things I've learned about you. I would have never known that you were a sensitive person. You know what I mean? I would have never really like taken that as an element of your personality.
My emotions fluctuate a lot as well. Although I'm getting very good at raising the floor of the sadness, because that's something I really I like. And within 1 week, I'll hate where my life and career are at, and then like within the same week, I'll be happy about it. Usually, it's towards the end of the week I feel happier because I don't have to do my day job as much.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. I'm glad that I am, because I found generally in life, when people need support, it's nice to have somebody who can empathize with them.
Yeah.
Rather than some sort of cold sort of nature person. But I like to think I can do both. But that being said, there are times where I don't really have a tolerance for people's bullshit.
Yeah.
Not including my own though.
But
I tolerate my bullshit too much.
Yeah.
My sad little wallowy feelings.
I think but you have to be honest with yourself too. That's the other thing. And be able to just call bullshit and say, look, I need to snap myself out from this, But yeah, I think as you get older also, I think you can...
Tell me, old man.
Yeah. Well, young man, when you get to this stage of your life, I tell you, things are going to be very different.
I bet.
You think you don't have testosterone now.
It's mad to think in 12 years' time, I will be the age you are currently.
I know. And 12 years, it feels like such a long time.
Yeah.
And then you realize it's not. It just flies by, man.
Yeah.
It really does at times. You got to make the most of it. Life is a playground.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you're playing it at the moment?
Ooh, fucking good question. I think I'm swinging on the seesaw at the moment.
You're on the seesaw. Are you up or down though? Because the seesaw,
Well, that's not the seesaw. I'm on the swing.
Oh, you're swinging on a swing.
I'm swinging on the swing. Yeah. The seesaw. I think if seesaw, when I get in a relationship, I'll be on the seesaw.
Yeah.
That's the thing. People, the seesaw, you need someone else there. Right now, I'm on the swing, and I think did you have this moment as a kid where you were on the swing the whole time, but you're always being pushed, and then someone finally teaches you how you can swing by yourself, putting your legs up that way and your legs back that way, your legs up that way.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I feel maybe life-wise at the moment. I feel like I'm on the swing, and I'm very comfortable going back and forth. But eventually that you do get tired of that as well, and you kind of want to do a different sort of thing. And sometimes you want to go on the roundabout thing. I'm trying to think of other sort of things that happen at playgrounds. There was this insane thing we had growing up at the playground that we went to a lot as kids. It was kind of like a playground that was like a 15-20 minute walk. And it was, I don't know if it was as big as it was, but it was this huge structure that those pyramids that you climb with they're just ropes attached together. I don't know if you have them here.
Yeah, I've seen them. There's one literally outside that window. Yeah,
you have one of those. And so I remember as a kid it being fucking massive, but like seriously massive, to the point where I think they got rid of it because of what a danger it was. But I remember that being such an exciting one, and I think that's kind of what you want to be on. You want to be going to the top of that huge climbing frame. But yeah, I think life. What I mean, maybe when I was a kid, life is like a playground. It's just more that there's a lot more fun you can have day to day. And I think the thing about a playground is it's pretty bare bones actually. But yet, from a kid's perspective, especially if you go on when you get the climbing structures or they're almost like treehouse type things. Mm-hmm. That's where the kid's imagination comes in, because that is essentially it's just 3 platforms with some stairs and maybe some climbing frames and a pipe going down. Like a fireman's pole sort of thing. But from the kid, it's that's a pirate ship, that's a castle, that's this. So I think, that's one thing that I think I forget sometimes, is that there's a lot more fun to be had in kind of the smaller things in life.
Yeah.
And I used to say that to my sister sometimes when we walk back from swimming class together. I used to say life is like a playground.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm trying not to forget that at the moment. I'm trying to enjoy it.
I got you, man. Your siblings.
Yeah.
How many did you say you had?
I'm the youngest, so I have an older sister and 2 older brothers.
And where are they now?
My sister is right now, I think she's kind of like traveling at the moment. She kind of has like some time off from work before she starts another job. One of them is in Berlin and one of them is in Chicago.
Okay, cool. Close?
Well, are we close as in relationship wise? Yeah, he's like a brother to me. Classic little joke. Yeah, I'm definitely close with my sister, and I'm close with my oldest brother. My other older brother, I'm close with him. I'm probably as close as I think I can be with him. He's a bit of more of a reserved person in general.
Okay.
But I know that he values our like relationship, and I value it as well. But yeah, we're a pretty close group. We don't hang out a lot as a quadruple together just because of the distance.
Just in different places.
But I'm hoping that we can hopefully hang out together at one point.
Sweet.
But because also growing up, the age difference between me and my oldest brother is like 10 years. So and after I was born, after the age of 8, he then went to university. So we were only a group of 4 for 8 years.
Got you.
Consistently. And then it was whenever he came back. But then my other brother went to university, and then it was whenever both of them came back. And then my sister left. And so I'd always been the one that I had the least time with all 3 of them. Obviously, my eldest brother, had the most time with all of us because he was the oldest. And so like I can't remember the last time we hung out as a group before.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad dynamic actually.
That's good.
I think we all sort of respect that we're in different paths in life, and we all have our own relationships with each other. And then like a sort of a group dynamic as well.
And what are their ages? What's the age difference?
So I'm 26, my sister is 29, my other brother is 30, I want to say, 31 almost, and then the other one is he's 10 years older, so 36.
Okay, cool. That's actually decent ages, to be fair, in terms of
it's not too far apart.
Yeah, it's quite nice, man. Are you all tall? Because if
No.
you don't know, Phil is like 6'4".
6'4". Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right, ladies. That's right, my ladies. My brothers are tall. Yeah, one of them is 6'2", the other one's 6'7", I think, or 6'6".
Wow.
And my sister's like 5'5". She got the short gene, and she
Wow.
always says that she's glad she did because it's way tougher to be a short guy, as you're aware.
No, I think it's actually no. Oh, I thought she was going to go the other way in the sense of it's way tougher to be a tall woman.
Oh, yeah,
you know
that
what I mean?
as well.
But I think being a short guy, like I'm 5'6", but my personality is fucking 6'6".
Sure, it is.
So like I looked at my situation and I was like, right, we got to work on the other side of the game. Because just based on the visuals, it's not gonna be like that for you, son. Based on the visuals, so you better
it is tough to be. It's tough to be a tall woman. I think it's tougher to be a tall woman than it is to be a short guy.
Yeah.
But fucking tall women are very attractive. That's another thing I like. Tall women.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 5'10's a great height for a woman.
Oh, look at that. There's, some women are so happy right now.
Yeah,
because
but they still have to be interesting. That's the thing. They still have to be like...
Now they're really upset.
That's the thing. We were talking about the dating or like that. But I think one of the biggest issues I find in dating is I just want to date someone who's passionate about something and excited by it. And I find that they probably are that way, but like early doors in the dating world, I'm finding that maybe I'm just going on bad dates. That's also part of it.
Yeah, but the thing is, you don't know a bad date's a bad date until
you're on the date.
Yeah, that's the thing. Do you have phone conversations with your date before you go on the date?
This is an interesting question.
Because listen, if you don't, this is a hack. And not even a hack. It's just sense. Try and have a few conversations on the phone. There's no date I've ever been on where I haven't had a chat with the girl on the phone a couple of times before we've actually gone out. Because I need to know we can sustain conversation.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's. I think the best type of date is where you've met beforehand and then you're going on a date because then you actually have a bit of a gauge for the person.
Right.
Quite a few of my dates recently have been like, I've met them once and then we went on a date or like Bumble or online.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done that. That's not a bad idea.
It's a good idea, dude. Seriously.
But
and it's cheap.
It is cheap. But then what if you go on the call? It's weird to go on a call with somebody and then say, oh, I don't actually want to go on a date with you.
No, you could still go on a date, but the thing is you just know what you're in for.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you could still be pleasant and not blow them off and be like,
Yeah.
you know. Or if they really are that sufferable or insufferable, out on the phone, then you just make up excuses. Like, you know, like, let's be honest, you know, time is valuable.
You know what I find weird is that on a date sometimes I wish I could. I don't know if maybe I'm like not good at this or maybe other people aren't good at this, but there are times when I'm on a date with somebody and the chemistry is just fine.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, let's go on another date. And I'm thinking like, do you want to spend like 2 hours where the conversation feels a bit forced? Not completely, but just like a little bit. I guess maybe my perception of feeling comfortable with somebody is different from other people's perception of feeling comfortable. But I also think I haven't gone on enough dates. I've been on like 4 in the past 4 or 5 months.
Okay, got
So
you.
I think it's really like not a lot. You know what's weird is that 2 people can leave a date and both be annoyed at the other person for not being interesting.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the chemistry is such a big part of it. And I'm trying to write a bit about this at the moment, but it's just weird that 2 people can just click.
Yeah.
And there is no reason for it, really. Maybe their personalities are similar and they have similar interests, but it's also what I find nuts is when you have somebody where you're like, everything on paper says we should get along, but we don't. That's what I think is very interesting. But it's just that, like, it's just you look at them and they look at you and it's just like that spark.
Right. And honestly, it's an amazing thing. It's like sometimes a conversation and like your humor levels are on point. And you just get it, you know, and you know how to take the piss out of each other to the right degree where you're both enjoying it. You can't write it. It happens when it happens.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
that's a big thing I've realized recently. I'm just sort of as an individual, I'm really enjoying I sort of have taken today I was even thinking about it, like my time will come. Like when things need to happen, they will happen. I think there's you should have a lot more faith. Yeah. I wish I was religious because then I could just put God on it and just say, God has a plan for me. God is this. And now I just have to think the universe. Yeah. I think bigger.
Well, dude, like from watching from afar, right? Obviously, I don't know about you in terms of like your personal life, but watching from afar and seeing the effort that you've put in over the years since I've known you and the things that you've done, it's admirable. From,
thank you very much.
You know, taking your show to Edinburgh and you got good reviews and then you've come back, you've recorded it, you know, you've got that up on a platform. You did a weekend at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
You know,
not too bad, huh?
Dude, I mean, from us co-winning the Blackout, you know, from a comedic standpoint, you know, you're doing amazing.
I'm burying you.
I didn't want to say it, but like, I have no accolades that could actually match up.
Oh, but when we met as well, I had like 2 or 3 years of experience on you.
Yeah, but no,
I'm just being a dick.
I don't know, it's all good. I've had my wins, you know what I mean? Yeah, but honestly, I love to see people doing well, and I love to see people getting better because ultimately that's the same thing I want for myself. So why would I not want it for others? You know.
What is this final question?
The final question is: what's the one piece of advice that you know you should take, but you just haven't taken it yet?
Oh, man, that is fucking good. What I find interesting about advice in general is that you never take it when it's given to you. It never clicks. It's only at that bottom of the barrel, sitting down in the shower moment that you look up and you go, oh, shit. That's when you realize advice. So it makes it almost pointless to give because whenever you're giving advice to somebody, they're never listening.
But it comes in handy when it comes.
When you get advice, it like sits in that like back region of the brain, and it just slowly waits. It's waiting its time. You know.
So what is? It's sitting there going, my time will come.
My time will come. It's like the Vietnamese during the war. You know, they hid in the bushes. They waited. They knew the Americans weren't going to keep going. And it didn't matter 50 years, they will retake Ho Chi Minh City.
So tell me about that piece of Vietnamese fighter that's sitting in the back of your head right now. Do you know
the Viet Cong,
the
Reds?
Viet Cong. Tell me about them. Nah. What is it? What's that one thing that you're like, I know I should do that, but
I think it's probably something my mother said or just general advice. I can't think of the specific advice it was. But I think it's like I think don't feel sorry for yourself. I think that's something I do quite a lot. And even when I'm not doing it, I'm sort of doing it. And that promotes me to be lazy and stuff like this, is that I just sort of, I beat myself up where I think it's all like, you know, like the universe is annoyed at me and stuff like that. Or like everyone hates me or stuff like this. Or like, oh, this is the reason, it's all my fault. And then it's like, you can't, someone said it really well. I think it was Chris DiStefano. He said, like, you can't control the outcome. You can only control the output. And so that's the advice, is like, just stop feeling sorry for myself and just like, accept the things will happen when they do, but work hard until then.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the advice. That's my little Vietnamese boy sitting in the back of my brain.
I like it, man. I love it, rather. Listen, Phil, thank you so much for taking part in this episode of Eulogise Me. Nah, it's been a pleasure, genuinely.
So yeah, thanks for having me.
Nah, listen, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure.
All right, there we go.
Sweet.